Hello, everybody. We'll just wait for a few more people to join before we kick off. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope everybody's had an okay spring so far. I can't believe we're in March already. Um, it has been wild. Great. Hi, Lucy. We'll kick off. We'll give it another minute and then we will kick off shortly. I know Leah is ready to go.
Always ready.
Always, you're born ready.
I missed a trick there.
Oh, this is super. Super. Right. Well, we'll kick off. Good evening, everybody. And you are so welcome to our Dairy Women Ireland webinar on
You know
women's
the
health.
right one.
So this is looking after your body when work is at its peak. So thank you so much. We are joined by Leah Bryans, who is pelvic health specialist, physiotherapist, and Pilates instructor for 20 years. I'll hand you over to Leah in a couple of minutes. We would have done this Zoom earlier in spring, but it's been full on. I don't know about everybody else, but we've been flat to the mat. My name is Ciara Lynch. I am a dairy farmer and a Dairy Women Ireland steering committee member. I met Leah 2.5 years ago, after I had my first baby, and she is just excellent at what she does. She came very highly recommended, and I've been back to her since after having my second baby. So it is something that I think everybody should have access to. I think everybody should be aware of it. And the reason I was so keen to do this session is that I'm really conscious that March and coming into April is very much heavy lifting time on farms. We are lifting buckets, we are still at cubicles, we're lifting calves. Sometimes calves are getting sick, so you're lifting up sick calves, you're crouched in difficult positions, and it is very easy to do damage. It also came up quite a bit in our feedback response forms that people sent in after the conference, that people would like a little bit more of a session on, I suppose, physical health, physiotherapy, and stretches that might help with kind of preventing any injury. And so that set the bones in motion for this event. If you'll pardon the pun. So just a little bit of housekeeping before I hand you over to Leah. So we have some upcoming events that I want you to know about. So on Tuesday, the 14th of April, we have a spring grass walk with John Maher and Mary McAvoy, and that is being hosted by the North Munster regional team. So that is on David, Linda, and Roy Dean's farm in Mallow, County Cork. That will be sent out on an email in the next couple of days. We've a couple of events coming up, so bear with us as we get back to normal procedures between calvings. A few other things. Our next Zoom is also on the 14th of April, and that's cash flow management. That's going to be a great one. That's with Philip O'Connor from IFAC and Paddy Ryan in PTSB. And then there's also an upcoming tractor skills workshop on the 17th of April in Clonakilty Ag College. The South Munster regional team are working on that, and there is a stack of events coming on from April onwards. So again, keep an eye on your emails. And for more details. So we are busy beavering away in the background while it's feeding calves and keeping the whole thing running. So bear with us as we get a few more events up and running for you guys. If there's any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat box. Everything will be treated very confidentially here. So there'll be no names and nothing kind of going against people's names. But please, if you're comfortable to ask questions, please ask questions. Leah is a wealth of information, and this session really is to give you as much back as is possible. So we are going to do probably about 20 minutes of a chat and then 30-minute then floor Pilates session. So make sure that you have space that you can stretch out. You can leave your camera on, you can turn your camera off, whatever you would like to do. But I really want everybody to take something from this session, in that you can go, okay, now I know how to protect my back. I know how to, breathe in properly. I know how to lift, really kind of bending your knees. I just want to prevent any injuries where possible, because it is a long slog. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Leah, who was one of our breakout sessions about 2 years ago at our conference, and had glowing reviews. So we were thrilled to invite her back. So thank you so much for coming back here.
That's all. Thank you very much for having me. I am a little bit croaky, so hopefully you can hear me okay. Do you have the slides to share? Do you want
They
to
are
pop
up.
those
I
up?
think, can everybody see? Can you see the slides, Lucy? Yeah,
Can
perfect.
you?
The slides are
Oh,
up.
hang
Yeah.
on. I don't know how. Maybe I need to hit something to look. Anyway, oh, there they are. Oh, how
There
exciting!
they
There
are.
they are.
There they are.
So will I say like next whenever
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
ready for
You say
you to
next.
go
Yeah.
ahead? So you can go next. You've already done a lovely intro for me there. I'm blushing. But just I suppose to give some background as to maybe why was I excited to be asked to do this, because I have a strong family history of farming. My grandfather, then my uncle, and now my cousin run a dairy farm in County Fermanagh, and it was like my favorite thing to do was to go there in the summer and just hang out and do any job they'd let me. So, but this was like in the 90s. So I know things have moved on a little bit in milking parlors since then, but I still know how physical it is and how difficult it is. And that's me hanging out with a horse, because I just love nothing more than animals and being outside. But when I'm not working. Um, so you have rightly said that I am a pelvic health physio. I have a clinic in Kilcock in County Kildare where you can come and see me. And we have a team there of 4 physios who all work in pelvic health and are all highly qualified to help you out. And I teach Pilates as well. And in my former life, before I set up my own clinic, I was a clinical specialist physio in the National Maternity Hospital and set up the Pelvic Floor Centre, which was based in St Michael's Hospital, all about very much more complex, maybe pelvic floor things. So not just, well, I leak a little bit of urine, but maybe I have a problem with bowel control. I have pelvic pain. I also leak urine. I have prolapse. I have
Super.
everything. So that's where it was a national centre where we saw all sorts of everything. So as Kira says, there's nothing, I think maybe there could be one or two things, but it feels like there's nothing I haven't heard about within pelvic floor symptoms. So never worry about giving me too much information, if you know what I mean, because I'll have heard it before. And I ask questions because I'm ready with the answer. So you can go on to the next slide there. So you don't need to be told that farming is physically demanding, but I think women in farming, particularly like women in any profession, are juggling their work life, their home life, and caregiving. We carry a lot of extra burden in that regard, I feel. And back pain and pelvic floor issues are common. At least 1 in 3 women um, are having pelvic floor symptoms, but it's not always something that's talked about. So symptoms such as pain, leaking, heaviness, the expression is always it's common, but it's not normal, and it can be improved. Um, if you go on to the next slide, um, we're thinking of spine health. Our spine is designed for movement and not for stiffness. And if I was in the room with you now, I'd be saying things like, okay, put your hands up if you're struggling with any aches and pains. How many of you have back pain at the moment? And I wish now, I don't know if I can flick this so I can see everybody. Put your hand up if your back hurts. I won't ask you to put your hand up if you pee your pants. Put your hand up if your back hurts. So if you're getting up and or you're standing working, everything just feels difficult. Okay, so we often end up with aches and pains from maybe poor lifting habits, but often maybe poor core support, weakness within those lifting muscles and the muscles around our abdomen and our pelvis. Um, We might also feel more if we are actually holding our breath whenever during effort. So that's something that we're going to practice within the Pilates as well, is how to exhale with effort. And if you think of blow as you go, so when you're doing something really difficult, say Kira was describing to me about, scraping out the pens, cleaning out the parlor, pushing, brushing. So think blow as you go instead of, okay, because when you make that noise, when you feel that, if you do it now, you can kind of make that funny noise. Feel the way you feel that pressure. I'm glad you're all on mute, or this will be interesting. Sounds from the parlor. That bearing down. Feel how that feels in your body, that pressure in your tummy, that tension, and maybe that pressure down into your pelvic floor. Whereas it feels different. So just maybe instigating a little bit of that sort of flow as you go. Um, and within the Pilates later on, we're going to look at movement and feeling that little bit more free within our body, and how we might be able to do a few little moves here and there to mitigate against that load that we're carrying. So if you flick on maybe to the next slide, I've changed my view again. There we go. So it's a daily strain on your body. I can't say to you, oh, just avoid the heavy lifting, particularly as you described there, in calving season, the sick calf, calf that's just not, you're feeding it, you're stuck in a corner somewhere. We find ourselves in all sorts of weird and wonderful positions. And one of the things that's most straining and most tiring on our body is actually holding a position or holding a load. We all have probably felt it, even something like, aside from farming, if you're standing on a sideline watching your child playing GAA or football or whatever, standing still can actually feel very straining on your back, much more than if you were out for a walk for the same length of time. So holding a position is actually can often feel like more of a strain. So trying to find ways that, sorry, I'm kind of talking about something that's on a different slide actually, but trying to find ways that you can minimize load and holding, because the repetition of something with fatigue, so we're tired and we're doing the same task over and over again, our body is getting more and more tired. That's where our injury risk comes in. Looking at the amount of load that we are lifting, moving versus our capacity. How strong are we? How much energy do we have? And our capacity can change day to day, hour to hour, based on the amount of sleep we've had, the amount of stress that's going on in our life, maybe the stage in our menstrual cycle. So sometimes we just have more in us than other days. The stage in our life. So if you have two small children, like Kira just mentioned, sleep, stress, all of that is high all year round, probably. But then you add your busiest time of year in terms of your calving or lambing or whatever you might have going on, and you are at capacity. Okay. So some things we can't change. So you can't change what time of the night that cow is going to calve at. But maybe there's some bits that you can tweak and things that you can actually change. And being aware of our capacity and just knowing when you go, look, I'm at capacity today and I actually just can't take on anything else. And sometimes it's knowing maybe when to say no to other projects, or saying, actually, I'm done. Can I have some help here? So, one of the questions that Kira had sent me in advance was about someone saying, I'm trying to carry my baby around while I'm doing tasks. I have the baby in the sling and I'm doing this. Just look at the amount of load that's going through your body versus your capacity. And if the load exceeds your capacity, that's where you're going to feel sore, or you're going to feel pressure down into your pelvic floor. That might be where you leak. Maybe you don't leak urine most days, but when you're just really tired and you've been on your feet more and you're lifting, that's when it happens. So it's load and capacity. I think I might have put things a little bit out of order here, actually, but go on to the next slide anyway. So I've got a slide here just saying, look at the things that we do regularly. I think I meant this to be closer to the end, but anyway. Yeah, that's probably one. No, no, go back actually. Go back to the one with the little gadget. Yeah. So how can we, look at the things that we do regularly and reduce our strain? So look at things that you're doing day in, day out and go, every time I do that, this really hurts my back. I'm so sore after this. And, kind of try to learn from it and go, this task really does affect how I feel. Can I do it differently? Can I lighten the load? Could I, instead of carrying the really full buckets, could I just break it down? I don't have the capacity to carry two full buckets of milk. Carrying one is awkward. So can I do two half buckets? I know it might take longer, but it might then cause you less pain and less pressure down into your pelvic floor. Um, can you completely avoid the task? Can you get somebody else to do it? I know sometimes you might be just like, no, don't be stupid. Of course I can't. But maybe you can. Maybe you can delegate. Maybe you can, do something different. Well, and swap perhaps, not just repeat the same thing all the time. Using equipment, um, um, to lighten the load. And I showed you this, I think, when I was talking to you down in Cork that time. But this quad crate thing was actually designed by a friend of mine up in Fermanagh, where he's a sheep farmer, actually, not dairy, but he designed all these different things that could go onto a quad so that he can transport things, lift, put a calf into it, put a lamb into it, put his fencing stuff into it. And now he's also created this little bubble thing to make your quad actually, warmer and drier, and so different technology. Yeah, I think it's called a bubble. So he told me that he'd give me, if anybody bought anything, he'd give me a cut. I said it's fine. So then he said he'll take me out for dinner next time I turn up in Fermanagh. It's been a long time. In fact, he's nearly in Donegal. It's very far away. But anyway, so he was on Dragon's Den and stuff years ago when he created all these little things that he made himself, and he just found it made his own life much easier on the farm. Um, and he was delighted to hear I was going to be talking to you again today. So there's probably loads of different ways that you can kind of use different tools or mechanization to save your own body. So I'm going to show you a few little tools and tricks that we have and products that I recommend as a physio, but you might find even more things other than the quad crate that you could use on. The slides are going all over the show there. So we'll move on to the next one. Was that a signal? Hurry up. Right. So I said this already. The reality of farm work is at this time of year, you really are at your capacity. So just listen to your body and try and rest when you can. Anytime you get an opportunity to go, I just need to take the load off, whether it's that you sit down, you do a few stretches, you even just take a few deep breaths, sit in the cab with the tractor for a second, close your eyes, not while it's moving, hopefully. So, just know that you're at capacity, and capacity plus fatigue is where we're going to have injuries. And maybe it's that we need to just look at this year and go, oh my God, I'm in bits after this season, and say, right, I'm not going to let this happen to me next year. Okay. So looking at planning ahead now to go, I'm going to build some more strength in my body. And you already have quite a lot, I'm sure, of the kind of aerobic fitness. You're out walking, you're maybe walking across fields, you're walking behind the cows as you take them to the field all through the summer. You're out in nature, and that is amazing for our body and for our nervous system. So good for our heart, our lungs, our brain, our gut, everything. So you're getting loads of that. Um, Something like Pilates or yoga. I'm not against yoga either. It's just that I teach Pilates, but something where you're releasing tension in your body, you're aligning your body, you're working on breathing, on control, on calming. Farming is not for the faint-hearted. It can be stressful. You've got things like TB and things that can just, they're out of your control. They shut down your herd. You're locked in. It's stressful. You're worrying about that. So you carry that physically in your body as well. So ways that you can release that are really important. And then in the gym, working on those repetitive movements that you have to do, that push, the pull, hinging, lifting, twisting. So get stronger. in the gym in a safe way so that then you are strong enough to do the tasks that you have to do day in, day out with these awkward, slippery little loads like little calves and little children and all the people and things that you have to lift that are not as easy in terms of shape as lifting dumbbells. Okay. But you build strength in the gym so that then you put it into your reality. And when I was saying this, get stronger, get fit to farm, it made me think of this girl. Flick on to the next one for me. Have you encountered Kyla Cobbler?
Yeah.
I saw yesterday she now has 1 million followers. So I'm guessing some of you follow her. But I love how she's like, forget about being skinny. Let's get furious and jacked. And I was thinking, that's what you girls want to be. You're strong. You want to be fit to farm. And I was thinking, plan some fun next year and go and see her in the Three Arena.
Like it's definitely something that I think over the years I've said to myself, oh sure, I don't need to go to the gym because I'm farming.
Mm,
If you're working hard in the farm, you don't need to go to the gym. Whereas since I've started going to the gym more regularly, you do find it is much easier to lift the calf
yeah.
properly, to lift the bags of meal, the bags of milk replacer, pushing milk carts. So it's more kind of that functional strength, that functional movement that you're kind of putting your theory into practice. So for sure, it
Yeah,
would be a big.
absolutely. And I've had some lovely feedback actually recently there from a lady. Now she's nothing to do with the farming world, but she's a lady in her late 50s when I first met her, and she hadn't done any kind of organized exercise. You know, she hadn't been involved in sport when she was younger. She was never a gym goer. She might have walked a bit, but she'd had a hysterectomy and she came to me just for some advice someone had told her that she should get a checkup. So she came, and in fact, you know, her pelvic floor was all really good, but I was like, maybe you could try some Pilates. And it might be good to just help you get a little bit stronger in your body, a little bit of weight bearing. So she had started from absolutely nothing. And she did Pilates with me for a couple of years, and she still does it, by the way. But she was really consistent. She used to be there every Friday morning. Then she moved on to the tougher class, and she just texted me there recently. She said, "I went to the gym since Christmas. Myself and my husband joined the gym," and she said, "It's so good because I know how to do everything because of the way you've taught me in Pilates. I know how to breathe. I'm not afraid how to move." And I was like, this is exactly what I want. I want people to feel like they know their body and
Yeah,
they know how to breathe and move and take load, because you have to lift load,
yeah.
but you need to know, I suppose, how to do it in a safe, strong way. And so I feel like Pilates, the gym, they're all like stepping stones to making you feel really furious and jacked and fit to farm. Okay. So anyway, let's move on to a little bit of pelvic floor stuff. Um, here's this lovely girl just about to jump out of her tractor. Again, I don't need a show of hands, but you know, how confident would you feel in that little floaty dress if you jumped out of your tractor? Would you feel like, I wonder, is there going to be a little puddle on the ground underneath me? So that jumping down from a height, there's a huge amount of impact. And if we have a lot of impact, and it creates pressure in our tummy, and we can leak urine. Okay, so you could leak, more simple terms, you might leak when you cough, you might leak when you sneeze, you might leak when you lift, you might leak when you jump down out of your tractor, you might leak when you're carrying your bales, your buckets, your calf, whatever. So it's when there is, just flick to the next slide, when there is too much downward pressure and not enough strength in underneath, we can leak. So if our pelvic floor muscles are not strong enough to resist this downward pressure, we will leak. Okay. The other time that you can leak, if you have a thing, is if you have a thing called a hypermobile urethra. So you see on that picture there, the kind of almost triangular shape thing is the bladder. The little arrows are showing, okay, there's pressure down. And then this little kind of tube down, this little line down, that's the urethra. And it's like a hose pipe. And the pelvic floor muscles are like as if your hose pipe is lying on the ground in the parlor and you stand on it, you'll be able to put like a kink on the hose pipe and stop the water coming out. Okay. So if you've got a strong backboard, the solid concrete floor, and your foot will stop the water coming out of the hose pipe. If it was on sand or if it's on long grass, the hose can just move away and it'll keep on trickling. Okay, that's what we mean by a hypermobile. The urethra can move, kind of move away from out of the grip of the muscles. Okay. No amount of pelvic floor exercises can really, really fix that. And so a physio can assess and tell you which of these issues you have. Is it that you need to get stronger in your pelvic floor, or do you have this hypermobile urethra? And while pelvic floor exercises will help a bit, it won't cure you completely. Okay. The next slide, a wee bit busy there, quite a lot of pictures on there, but you need to get a pelvic floor assessment. If you're experiencing significant leakage, if you're leaking almost every day with a cough, a sneeze, a lift, a walk, a jump, a run, it might be that you need to get stronger through those pelvic floor and hip muscles. Um, and if we examine you and find, yeah, you actually have very weak muscle, then this gadget, the Emsella chair, might be helpful for you. But if you have that hypermobile urethra thing I was talking about, the Emsella chair thing will not. So the Emsella chair is electromagnetic current. We as physios sometimes use electrical muscle stimulation, where we can put a little probe internally into the vagina, or sometimes externally on the skin on either side, or sometimes through this pair of shorts that you can get that will activate the muscles. So it's a bit like, if you ever remember the slender tone, this kind of a belt that you used to be able to put on to do your sit-ups for you. Yeah. So it makes the muscle contract, and it will make a muscle stronger if it's very weak. If your muscle's kind of okay, but could be stronger, exercise is better. So you need to kind of know where you're at. The Emsella chair, I've had it, I've used it, or I haven't used it, but patients of mine have gone and used it. And a few of them, if I pick the right person, they get better. Often people come to me and go, I've done that and it didn't work. And I examine them and I go, yeah, that's because you've got something else wrong. So definitely I would recommend, before you invest hundreds of euros sitting on that Emsella chair, come and find out if it's going to work for you, because it won't work for everybody.
It's really
If
good
you have
advice.
if you have that hypermobile urethra thing, then you know the way I was saying that if you have the hose pipe on the concrete floor, you need a strong backboard. So this thing here, Contrail Active Guard, can work really well to create a little backboard. And I sent Kira an email earlier with a few links um, and a bit more information about that.
I'll make sure that those go out in our follow-up
Mm,
email, so they'll go out in an email tomorrow, the next day. Yeah.
perfect. So it's just that you can purchase these. They used to be available in Boots, and the company that distribute them is called Premier Wellbeing, and they'll send you out a free starter pack. Try them. There's like three different sizes. Start with the small one. Most people say they don't really notice a huge difference between the sizes, either in how easy they are to put in, take out, or they usually say that the biggest one maybe gives them the most support from leakage. But what they do is they kind of go in and open it out internally, and they press against the bladder, and they create that little bit of backboard basically. And they can be really effective if stress incontinence is what is troubling you. If we go on to the next one, prolapse. It's another really common. So I would say stress incontinence and prolapse are kind of two of the most common things that we see. And prolapse is this feeling of something coming down. Okay, these are things that you're likely to notice more at this time of year, when you have been lifting, when you have been on your feet a lot. It's this feeling like something is just, some people describe it like, oh, I feel a bulge, I feel a ball, I feel like I'm sitting on something. Others might say they just notice when they wipe, or maybe when they're in the shower, that they can feel something. You're more prone to it if you've had three babies, and more prone to it if you had a large birth weight, if you had the baby had a large head circumference, if forceps were used. Um, it's also something that kind of runs in the family. So some people will never have an issue with this, and others, even if they had one small baby, might have it. So it's to do with our connective tissue and kind of how we're held together. More common if you have hypermobility as well. I forgot to write that on. Um, Also, sadly for you guys, it's more common if you've got occupational heavy lifting. So if you have to lift a lot, you're going to have that pressure down. Um, And another factor is constipation and also actually chronic cough. So just think of straining and pressure downwards, 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 and we have this feeling like something is coming out. Again, come and see a physio about it, and we can give you some more bespoke advice. But if we flick on to the next slide, just two of probably the most effective things for a symptomatic prolapse would be a pessary, which is like an internal support. And I know from, again, in farming, I remember going to my aunt and uncle. They actually farm sheep and goats. A different aunt and uncle, not the dairy farmers. Um, but I remember seeing these yos and going, Does that, is that a is that a pessary that sheep has got there? And my aunt is like, yes. How did you know? And she said, well, she prolapsed whenever she was lambing. So, and she had this big X on her back as well, which I found really devastating because that was like, oh yeah, we know not to go with her again. Like, imagine as humans, the 1 in 3 women that's going around with this issue has a big X on their back.
Brutal.
So this is in human terms, it's a silent epidemic, and nobody knows. It's invisible. It's underneath your clothes. Nobody knows you're dealing with this except you. Um, but you can come and talk to me about it. We don't need to put an X on your back. But pessaries can be really helpful. But in the short term, and say you're struggling at the moment and you're like, oh, Jesus, Leah, how am I going to get strong? I have to go off back out to the farm here tomorrow morning, armed with all this information you've given me, doom and gloom. Um, these leggings, SRC shorts or leggings, really, really effective external support if you're feeling just the pressure down below that you're just thinking, oh God, everything's going to fall out. I've done one too many lifts. Try the SRC shorts. They're available from In Health in Bray, and most of my patients who I've advised to get them call them the magic knickers. So, flick on one last slide is just to say, look, how to find me. So you can have a look on the website. And the clinic is based in the Rye Bridge in Kilcock. And as I say, we are a team of 4 physios, all treating pelvic floor problems. So if you can't get me, get an appointment that just suits you and your lifestyle. So if you're free every Tuesday afternoon, Angela and Sarah are there on Tuesday afternoons. So find an appointment that works, that you can make, and it doesn't add more stress to your life. We treat females of all ages from 0 to 90 and beyond. And we also treat children. So children suffering maybe with bedwetting or leakage, or some children have soiling issues as well. So those are the only male patients that we look after currently, is our boys up to 18. And other than that, we are a women's health service. So I feel like I've talked at 100 miles an hour and I still didn't manage to do it in 20 minutes. But I wonder if, before we do a little bit of Pilates, would you like to ask me any questions, or has anything come in on the chat that I didn't see there?
I don't see anything in just yet. Alva, do you have anything in, or if anybody wants to unmute, or you can pop a question into the chat box, please feel free to do so, and we can come back to them later on, or we can go through them now. Yeah, Lucy, go ahead.
Yeah, I have 2 daughters. One is 21 and the other's 15. And they work on the farm, obviously, as well as myself. How do I help them to learn about their pelvic health as well, so that, obviously they're both have their periods and stuff at the moment, but how do I help them to learn about that so that over time they don't kind of end up in the same situation, maybe with a prolapse or something like that? Now, obviously, that depends on the certain issues that you were talking about. But,
Yeah.
Is there something that I can be putting into place now? Because they're both quite sporty. They play a lot of football, and they do Zumba, Pilates.
Yeah. So I think Pilates really, like I said about that other lady who was like, I know now how to move. I know how to lift without straining my pelvic floor. I know what to look out for. Actually, I didn't really talk about it too much there. I mentioned it just in one slide. Constipation. That is one of the biggest things that People will come into me and they go, yeah, I've always had a problem with that. Um, and maybe just making sure that for all of you and for your daughters that that isn't a thing, because that causes huge pressure down into the pelvic floor, and it can lead to very uncomfortable things like hemorrhoids and things that people don't really want to talk about. They're really unpleasant, and we have lots of solutions for that. So avoiding constipation is huge. So making sure that they drink enough water, that they listen to their body. And this is not just your daughters, but all of you. Listen to your body. When you need to go to the toilet, go. And I know that's really difficult when you're maybe on a farm. Um, it's easy for men to just pee behind a tree, not so easy for women. Um, but maybe it's that you try, our gut loves routine. And if you can establish some kind of a routine within your working day that you go, okay, so I get up really early and I go out and I do the milking and I come in and then I have, if you can say, I have an hour to myself there where I can eat my breakfast. I can sit down, go into what we call rest and digest mode. So think about the opposite, which is called fight or flight. Yeah, you've all probably heard of fight or flight. In the middle of calving and something's not going quite right, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, will I ring the vet? Oh God, or there's well, what am I going to?" That feeling, that's fight or flight. Okay, and if we're in fight or flight, our bodily functions aren't working correctly. Whereas when we're in rest and digest, and we're sipping a cup of coffee, and we're taking time to chew our breakfast, seeing if you can just do that once a day. Have one calm meal, and that can be really important for the gut. And that you then, about 20 minutes after you eat, you should feel like you need to go to the toilet and go. And then you're done for the rest of the day. You're not walking around holding something in because you missed that window, you were in the middle of something when you felt you needed to go to the toilet and you ignored it. I think teaching women to actually attend to their own basic needs is probably the best thing that you can do. So many women come into clinic and they just go, yeah, no, I might need to go to the toilet, but I don't because I'm feeding my baby or I'm, at work or I just don't have time. You're like, okay, but now you're sitting in front of me with really sore bum because you just didn't go to the toilet when you needed to. So maybe encouraging that if you can have that kind of a conversation.
And
I
starting Kegels or Kegel exercises early, Leah, is that something that, because I know that can often lead to muscles that are
yeah.
too tight?
Yeah, so I think that actually it's funny. I mean, my whole career has been about teaching people how to do pelvic floor exercises, also known as Kegels, correctly. And yet now, actually, there's lots and lots of research that's looking into how, in fact, once our pelvic floor is okay, it's working reflexively in the background. It does what it's got to do. So we don't need to overdo it with those specific exercises. Um, we need to stay strong in terms of our hip mobility or being able, some of the exercises I'm going to do with you now, bridging, strength like that. So Pilates stuff is really good. Being able to move in all directions is really important. And
Another
it'll help them with their sport too, actually.
Definitely. Another
Mm-hmm.
question that's come in there. So if you're using a pessary for prolapse, is it too late to do Pilates?
No, because the pessary is just giving you that internal support. To sound really negative about prolapse, when you have it, you have it. And you can't really reverse it. You give support, you can stop it progressing. Okay. So if you start doing your Pilates and you learn how to breathe well, move well, build strength everywhere else, you will probably feel much less symptomatic with your prolapse. And the pessary is something that if it works, keep using it for as long as you can. Just make sure you get regular checkups. Every 6 months that pessary has to come out. You need to be checked and it goes back in again. Some people learn how to put their pessary in and out themselves, and that's ideal. So sometimes you might maybe you have a pessary given to you by a gynecologist and they just give it to you and say, come back every 6 months. So if you wanted to learn how to self-manage your posture, you could come to us in clinic. We can teach you how to be able to be in control of it yourself. Like putting on a sports bra or putting on your wellies one day and your boots a different day, that you can choose the level of support that you need. So there.
I think that's it for the minute, I think. But absolutely, please do keep your questions coming in, and we can go back to them later on if you would like. Yeah, and
I
again,
think
I'll put
Lucy,
all of Leah's contact details on the email that'll go out tomorrow. So if there's anything that you want to follow up with privately, and book in a session, I'll put all of those in.
yeah. And I think actually, Lucy, just even having the conversation with your daughters, and so that they don't ignore symptoms. If they have symptoms, get treatment early, start to learn to understand their body early rather than wait till something gets really bad before we finally go. And I suppose that's the case for every little niggle that we have. Don't ignore the niggles. Don't ignore your body when it's whispering. And don't wait till it has to shout at you.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot longer to get better then, usually. So I've gone a little over time. So now we have about 20 minutes left for Pilates. So we'll do a little bit. And because I'm conscious that at this time of year you're already at capacity, you're probably sore and stiff. I thought I'd make this class quite relaxing and quite gentle and ease out aches and pains and loosen out your lower back. And I hope that you'll feel a bit better after it. You're not going to go like, wow, that was a workout. It's going to be more about a little bit of calm on a Tuesday night. So I talk about my Pilates and I say we've got to look at, when we do in Pilates, we've got our ABCs. We've got our alignment of our body, how we breathe, and then the C is control or coordination, centering. We can make the C lots of different things. But the first thing is that we have nice alignment through our body and that we have good breathing mechanics. So let's stand up actually. So find yourself a little spot. So I'm going to stand up over here. I'm going to take off my woolly jumper and we're going to do a few moves. So, oh, my knees have gotten stiff from sitting there cross-legged on the wooden floor. That wasn't good for me, was it? What did I tell you? It's not good to be stuck in one position. Okay, so coming into standing. And let's just tell yourselves all, first of all, that you're just brilliant because you're here tonight and you're doing something for yourself. So think about your alignment as you stand there. Feet, knees, hips, and shoulders, all kind of in a nice straight line. Okay. And let's just take a nice big deep breath in and out. Rub your shoulders up to your ears and then drop them down. Lift them up and drop them down. Having your hands by your sides there. We call this one jam jars. I want you to imagine you're opening a jar and closing. So twisting, maybe think palms forward and then twist the palms back. So kind of opening and closing some little jam jars there. Still just breathing nice and wide and full. Just rotating through those shoulders. Okay, let's do a little bit more shoulder movement. We're just going to inhale, let the arms rise up, and exhale, bring them back down. So think about your arms almost like a pump. You've drawn the air in, and now as you push the arms down, you're squeezing the air out again. Inhale and exhale. Think again just a wee bit about your body alignment as you move. So trying to keep your body nice and still as the arms move. Okay, inhale and exhale. One more time, in and out. So we've got loads of lovely breath going on there. Now let's just stretch into the calf muscles a bit. So when we're standing a lot, our legs can get quite tight. Okay. Also, if you're in, like, say you do wear, I mentioned wellies a minute ago, wellies are quite flat and you can actually end up with kind of sore feet, maybe like plantar fasciitis, things like that. From wearing really flat shoes. So maybe alternating again, that if you don't need to be in the wellies, put on boots or something like that. that you can have a wee bit more support maybe. So anyway, let's stand with one leg in front and one leg behind. And just feel that lovely stretch down the back of your leg. Keeping the front knee bent, back leg straight. Thinking about our alignment here, okay? Our hips should be straight in front, like the headlights of a car. And think again about your chest also, okay? So your chest is on full beam, okay? Straight ahead. Pop the arms down by your sides and let's just breathe in and exhale. Just push the arms back. Inhale, take the arms forward. Exhale, bring them back. Keeping that nice alignment, keeping the body still. Breathing in and out. Enjoying that lovely stretch in that back leg. Change sides now and have one leg in front, one leg behind. So the front knee is bent, the back leg is straight. Check in on those hips. Are they straight in front? So they are, I don't want you kind of like this. Everything is like lined up. Okay. Military precision. And front knee bent, back leg straight. Ever so slightly tuck your tail in. So you feel like your tailbone, if you had a plumb line, it's just hanging straight down. Your pelvis is nearly like a little bucket. Hold it level. Okay, I don't want to spill any milk. Okay, and think about your rib cage is almost like an upturned bucket sitting on top of it. So I'm talking to you about buckets, but often in my class I reference, the little yellow thing inside a Kinder egg. Think about your pelvis as like one half of it. Your rib cage is like the other half. It clicks in on top. Okay, so keep the ribs and the pelvis like a Kinder egg, arms by your side. Inhale, exhale. So we've got our alignment, our breathing, and now we're adding a little bit of coordination. Stretching into that chest. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Open your chest. So we're getting lots of different muscles here. Stretching, working on our core control, and our upper body as well. Good. Bringing those legs together again. And let's imagine you're in the parlor. Maybe you're just waiting for the machine to come off, one cow. Stretch out the front of the hip. So let's see, can you just bring one leg up? This is just a very simple little stretch. Often we get tight in the front of our hips. Maybe if you sit a bit, if you're stuck crouching down for a while, but tightness in the front of the hip can impact actually mid-back and lower back pain. So stretching out the front of the hip there. And then let's change sides. So I'm just holding on to something. I'm going to bring my foot up towards my bum and feel that lovely stretch in the front of the thigh. And breathe. Try not to hold your breath. Try not to make that noise. Come back down. Shake those wee legs out again. Okay, we're going to do one more thing in standing. I was just looking at my little cheat sheet there. A nice neck stretch. Okay, so again, stress, tension, holding. We can hold a lot of tension in the neck. So let's go with our hand again on a wall if you can. If you don't have a wall nearby, just put your hand out. So imagine you have the palm of your hand against the wall, fingers facing backwards. Now, some of you will feel already like a stretch and maybe tingling into the wrists there, into your fingers. Take your head away from the wall, ear to shoulder, away from the wall. Feel that really deep stretch in the neck and the arm and the fingers. Hold it, breathe. And come back up and let's go with the other arm. So palm of the hand is against the wall. Maybe it's an imaginary wall. Fingers are back, ear to shoulder. Feel that stretch. Some of you will really feel this and others might not. This is what's called neurotension. So tightness in actually the nerves as well as the muscles and stiffness in the joints. So some of us are lucky enough to have it all. All of the things are tight.
That's very sore. That
Yes.
is very sore.
Very sore. It is. Shake it out. So I find it very sore as well.
Yeah.
Do it for about 20 seconds at a time. Don't force it too much. And maybe what you find is just having the hand in that position is enough.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need to add the neck. Maybe you could do it just with the neck and hand by your side and just try bringing the fingers back and forward. So we call this flossing, so that you're kind of moving the nerve. You're not holding it for as long. Now try that with the other side. Also, one side of your neck and your arm might be totally different to the other. So ear to shoulder, hand out at maybe 45 degrees this time, and just moving the wrist back and forward. So who's likely to suffer with pain here could be someone who is maybe breastfeeding, holding babies, holding forward all the time. The question about someone carrying the baby in the sling, perhaps if you're rounded there, you will feel tight through this. And when we open it out, you're likely to feel this. People who maybe work at desks, I don't know, physiotherapists who lean over beds all the time. But I find that one, I need to stretch that quite a lot. Let's move on from that one and come down to lie on your back for a second. Okay, so we talked there about our alignment, our kinder eggs. So when we're lying down on the floor, still just thinking about that little kinder egg alignment. So you've got your pelvis and your rib cage just kind of clicked in. So you're kind of flat through the front. You're not lying with your boobs sticking up. Okay, trying to keep that sort of connection of your rib cage into your pelvis. Feet, knees, hips, shoulders, all in a nice straight line. Let's just now do a little spine twist. This feels lovely on the lower back. So roll the knees to one side and then come back to center and roll them the other way. No, they're me. Sorry, I think I moved my camera a wee bit. So knee rolls. Let's exhale as you twist. Inhale to center. Exhale to twist. Inhale to center. Exhale, twist. Inhale, center. Exhale, twist. So for many of us, keeping the knees together is perfect. Some people like to have a deeper stretch. So by that, we stretch out the right leg and we're going to take the left leg over. Sometimes, yeah, as if just on cue, my back kind of cracks when I do this and it feels lovely. It's kind of a release. So if your back is clicking and clunking as you do it, that's absolutely okay. You've saved yourself a fortune going to a chiropractor. Change sides, stretch one leg out, bring the other leg up and over. And then just breathing into that position, feeling that lovely stretch into the lower back, into the hip. Keep it there as you breathe. And trying to kind of soften your body. Come back to center again. Now we're going to do a little bit of bit more movement through the lower back. And I call this strength by stealth. As you're doing all these movements that don't feel like they're really hard, your pelvic floor is working, your hip muscles are working, your core is working, and you just think, oh, I'm doing something pretty easy here. Okay, and that's what I want you to feel. Okay, so I'm going to turn around like this so that you can see what I'm doing. So you've got your nice alignment again, feet, knees, hips, and shoulders. I want you to imagine that you've got a little glass of milk on your knee. Um, or maybe it's a gin and tonic, maybe it's a glass of wine, maybe it's a cup of tea, something precious that you don't want to spill. So on my left knee, I have that drink. I'm going to breathe in to get ready. And as I exhale, I'm going to let my right knee drop out to the side. As I inhale, I'm going to bring it back in. Exhale out. Inhale in. And I'm focusing on the stillness of my body. I'm trying not to spill the milk. Out and in. Out and in. We'll do one more and then we're going to swap the drink over. Out and in. So move your glass over to your right knee. Breathe in. Exhale, let the knee drop. Inhale, bring it back in. Exhale, out. Inhale in. exhale out. Inhale in. Focusing on that stillness. We've got our alignment. We're staying still. We're breathing. And we've got our coordination. Exhale and inhale. Good. I'm going to progress that on a little bit. Put your glass of milk on your left knee again. And now I want you to just fold your right leg into what we call tabletop in Pilates. So the knee is directly in line with the hip and your shin is kind of parallel to the floor. So you've got your glass of milk on the left knee, and on this shin, you've got a tray. It's lots of little glasses, and you're hosting and you're going, don't even like a drink. I want you to draw a circle with that leg. So as if you can almost imagine you're just passing this tray around on your shin, moving through that hip joint on the right, keeping your left knee really steady. Change direction, draw in your circle again. We're mobilizing that hip, we're activating lots of muscles, and you're just thinking about being a hostess with the mostess and not spilling your lovely milk. Hold steady there. Replace this right foot to the floor and float the left one up. Reinstate all your glasses. So glass on the right knee, don't spill it. A tray on the shin and draw some circles. I don't mind if the circle is practically invisible as long as you don't spill your glass of milk. Okay, so keep that right knee really steady. Stay soft through the neck and shoulders. 5 or 6 circles and then change direction. Trying to keep that nice alignment through the pelvis. And then let's pop that leg back down. Bring the feet kind of close to your bum. And we're going to do some bridging here. Now, what I want you to try is just to lift your back straight up. Okay, keep it a nice straight line now. Shoulders, hips, knees. Okay, and slowly lower yourself down from the shoulders, one bone at a time. Imagine your spine like a little string of pearls, and you're putting one bone down at a time. Slowly, 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 slowly down onto the floor. Press into the heels and lift up. And then slowly lower down, one bone at a time, nearly thinking you're trying to stretch your spine out as long as you can. You're putting your tailbone down towards the end of your mat, making the spine feel longer. So again, lift straight up. Feel the effort in your butt cheeks. And then slowly lower down, relaxing through those collarbones, relax through the chest, softening all the way down, slowly, 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 slowly. Stretching out that spine and releasing at the bottom. Just in the interest of time, and staying here in this position, letting your legs go wherever it feels comfortable. I have a little pillow nearby here. If I was to put that under my thighs, let my legs just rest, that can feel very nice if your lower back is tired. If you feel like you want to just let your legs flop out to the side, some people like having the soles of their feet together, let the knees open. Some people prefer with their legs crossed and let the legs open. I just want you to lie here and really take a few deep breaths. Really breathe a deep, feeling your tummy rise up as you breathe in and sink down as you exhale. Place your hands on your belly and just feel that movement, inhaling, rising up, and exhale, sinking down. Really nice to actually practice this with something slightly heavy on your tummy. So imagine you have a hot water bottle on your tummy. And as you breathe, you feel tummy almost lifting the hot water bottle. You feel it rise as you breathe in and sink down as you breathe out. Feel the belly rise up and sink down. if you have little, maybe you have a cat or you have a puppy or maybe you have a baby, think about that when something is lying on you and it's relaxed and it's fast asleep and it's warm and it's cuddly and it's soft. Think how relaxed you feel when you're sitting there under that little creature. Imagine that as you lie there and breathe into the belly and letting it sink back down. Soften your body and release any tension. Just gently now, let's move the head gently from side to side, turning left to right, as if you're moving from, say, 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock on a clock face. Just releasing the neck. And pause now at 12 o'clock again. And imagine the tip of your nose as a pencil. And just draw me a tiny little circle with your nose, circling down and around, down and around, down and around. Making the circle a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And when you feel like it's as big as you can make it, just change direction and circle it all the way back in again. Just making it a little bit smaller with each circle. Keeping your jaw soft, your teeth and your lips slightly parted, releasing any tension. And when you've brought that little circle all the way back in, just stop. Take another few nice deep breaths. Wiggle your fingers and toes and gently bring yourself back to the room. I don't want to keep you going for too much longer because it's already after 8:30 and we were meant to just finish after an hour, and I know it's a busy time of year. So that's just a tiny little taster. That's only about a third or two-thirds of what I hoped I would go through with you this evening. But that's the way that my Pilates classes work. I do them live like this in this exact room, and they are recorded. So if it turns out that 6:30 on a Tuesday evening does not suit you to join in live, you can say every Wednesday morning at 9 when I get kids to school and I have the milking done, I do Pilates. So you can go in and switch on my class, and that can be your little bit of protected time. So that's the way that I do my classes now. There are people doing them from all over the world, actually. I say that. you know, every now and again, someone does it when they're on their holidays. They join in from Spain. And in fact, I taught 2 weeks ago from Lanzarote, where I went to see my dad. So I can, like, I never take a day off really of teaching my class because I can take it everywhere with me. And you can do it whenever it suits you.
That was absolutely gorgeous. That was really, really lovely. Even lying on the floor in the office, hearing kids squealing.
Yeah.
It was just, it's
a little moment of zen. And I think that's what you guys need at the moment, isn't it? You don't need a hard workout. You're doing it all day long. There'll be there's a time and a place for everything, isn't there? And probably you just need that little more than you need anything else. So take that with you.
It was just beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And I could go on forever, as you probably guessed, but I better stop.
We can have it forever. Is there any questions or any other feedback? I'm going to pop the kind of next upcoming events again. As a reminder, if you have any questions to pop through that we have them coming in, and just a reminder, upcoming events: Tuesday the 14th of April at 11 a.m. we have a spring grass walk with John Maher and Chagas and Mary McAvoy from Germinal, and that's being presented by the North Munster regional team. Our next Zoom is the 14th of April, 7:30 p.m, and that's cash flow management with Philip O'Connor from IFAC. and Paddy Ryan in PTSB. And then there's also a tractor skills workshop on the 17th of April in Clonakilty Ag College. And just do keep an eye on your emails and socials and WhatsApps. We're kind of hitting you from all angles. And those will all be finalised and kind of advertised in the next couple of weeks. So if there's any other questions, do I see anything else coming in, or if you have anything else? You are very welcome, Lucy. You are very, very welcome. So thank you so much, Pilates convert here now. So
I did see that one pop up.
oh, look at the doggy. We have a
oh, this
doggy.
Smokey just literally came up to the window and shouted at me, so I had to let him in through the window there. This is my other furry friend.
The furry baby. The furry baby. No, I think it's just it's practice that we, I think, all need to build into our weeks and build into our days, because again, you know, with the nature of what we do, with the nature of the roles that we sometimes leave in the house, is that we kind of do tend to put ourselves last. So if there's something that you can take from tonight, is go and find yourself a class, find Leah's online classes, and just do something to protect, I suppose, your pelvic floor health, but also your physical health in terms of your back and your neck. My neck cracked on the wall. And Leah, I was in with Rory earlier today, my other physio friend, and he did a lot of work on my neck. So that's wild. So that's still sore. So listen, I think we might leave it there if everybody else is happy enough. And again, I will send out the Zoom link so that you can rewatch this. People can catch up if they've missed it, and we'll send on the link of any of those products that Leah mentioned it as well.
Brilliant.
Perfect, Leah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for attending.